What's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 316 of the F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay Brainless One. Will be joining me shortly. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, make sure you comment. Helps our algorithm out, helps the podcast grow. Would really appreciate it. But all that being said, we have things like WWE legend, pro wrestling legend, Iron Sheik passed away this week. Brainless One and I will get into that. We got an update on Randy Orton. Huge news, actually. Beyond that, we had a not-so-PG promo that came out of the mouth of Asuka and IYO Sky this week. They were speaking in Japanese, but apparently somebody translated it, and it was not people friendly. So.
Yeah?
Yeah!
What's up, Cousin Jay?
It's episode 316.
Ooh, is that the IPA?
It is the IPA.
You know, my original plan was I was going to go drive up to Total Wine after my run today. But after dashing doors for well over 100 miles and over 5, almost 6 hours, I was kind of dashed out. So I didn't make it up there. But I do have a beer.
All right.
I have something called the Liquid Culture from Smart Mouth.
All right. That'll do.
Yeah?
Swig of beer for the working man.
Ooh, that is good.
Yeah.
Well, at least even though I'm not drinking as much as I used to, my taste for beer hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But Jay, you know, I don't even have words. I'm still in shock about what happened. I don't even know what to say. And this is crazy for me to think that I, right now, am just as devastated about losing a wrestler at the age of 81 as I was when Owen Hart died and when Eddie Guerrero died.
It felt like for a while that, maybe, just maybe, the Iron Sheik was just going to keep living and keep living and keep living. I have to say, though, watching the documentary A&E did on him recently, you could tell he certainly had gone downhill a bit as far as his physical health. I mean, you knew that like his mobility had been not so good for quite a while,
Right?
But you can kind of hear it in his voice. He just sound tired, and I think the impact of the man, not just on the wrestling industry, but just as a cultural phenomenon, I don't think can be overstated here. He had finished his in-ring career, quite a while ago, and then all of a sudden had like this resurgence because of all these crazy appearances on the Howard Stern show,
Right.
And just became something new and reached a brand new audience. Beyond that, he did a whole host of shoot interviews that, I mean, are among the greatest things you will ever listen to. I mean, The Rock, I think, summed him up pretty well when he did his tribute, talking about how, like the term jabroni came from the Iron Sheik. The Rock made it popular. Jabroni is in the dictionary. Like Iron Sheik invented a word. He is the man that catapulted Hulk Hogan. Quite honestly, he is probably the only man that could have made that happen, because Backlund didn't want to lose to Hogan, and they had a tendency in at that time WWF to have transitional champions,
Yeah.
and there weren't many people that Backlund would have been willing to lose that belt to. But the fact that Iron Sheik, at that time, it wasn't that long after the Iran hostage situation, and was touting, his love for Iran and how much he hated the United States. Bob Backlund was a white baby face that, he had the title for a very long time.
5 years.
Him lose to a guy like that, and then you put the title on Hogan about a month later, 3 weeks later. I mean, and the rest is history. And what I don't think a lot of people realize is when Sheik got the title, he was like in his 40s.
Yep.
And before that, he had quite a freaking life. He was a top flight amateur wrestler. Probably would have ended up doing well in the Olympics. I think he actually did go to the Olympics, but ended up becoming a wrestling coach for the U.S. Olympic team when he came over to the United States. He had at one point been one of the guards for the Shah of Iran, and the Shah of Iran was a king, and the kingdom had lasted thousands of years. The Shah of Iran did a lot of stupid things that ended up, getting like the Ayatollah Khomeini in power. But a lot of people didn't know the story of the Iron Sheik and how he was the bodyguard for the Shah. But then people not standing like, by the way, the Shah and the Ayatollah didn't jive together. So they would play up the fact that he was a bodyguard for the Shah, while also him being a sympathizer to the Ayatollah. Didn't make a lot of sense, but yeah. But Chris Brown also mentioning all the wonderful Twitter rants out there.
Oh, God, yes.
Iron Sheik had. I mean, he called anybody out and everybody out. Whether or not he was the one operating the account kind of doesn't matter, because, like, you saw him, again, on, like, Howard Stern show, and he would kind of say these things. And whoever was running the Twitter account definitely was utilizing that persona that was on that show to help catapult that forward.
Right. And I'll say what an impact the Iron Sheik had, because I really thought about it. I can only think of only 2 matches off the top of my head that I've seen that the actual Iron Sheik wrestled in live. And one of them was at SummerSlam 91. He wasn't even the Iron Sheik. He was Colonel Mustafa when they had that 3-on-2 handicap match with him, Slaughter, and General Ednon, or whatever the frig the guy's name was, when they went up against Hogan and the Warrior.
Yeah.
And the only other time was when he wrestled at WrestleMania 17, and we got one of the greatest lines in the history of professional wrestling from Bobby Heenan, because the Iron Sheik, who was in this match because of his popularity from being on the Howard Stern show, and the fact that it's the Iron Sheik. He's done so much in professional wrestling, and he had bad knees. So obviously that makes it even funnier that, Bobby Heenan said that, but it's the Iron Sheik basically at 60 at that point?
Yeah.
He had to be about late 50s or 60. And that's my 2 experiences with the Iron Sheik as like an in-ring performer. Obviously with, the documentary, because I remember you were the one that introduced me to the Iron Sheik documentary. We watched that. That was a very interesting watch too.
Yeah, and that was the one that I think was like on Amazon Prime. They
Yep.
had done it several years ago, and then there was kind of that update with A&E biographies. I think it was this past year. But I mean, it's just interesting to like. Not too many people would embrace the hate the Iron Sheik had to like endure. His life getting threatened, and but the thing is, he was a legit badass.
Yeah.
Shoot fighter, and even Hogan, who, I mean, 24-inch Python said that those Persian clubs that he would use, he was like, Sheik made it look like it was nothing. None of us could do what he did with those things. He made it look like child's play, and he's like, I'm telling you, it was legit and it was insane. But I mean, Sheik just latched on to being a heel and really drew the ire of the WWE audience. And then when he and Nikolai got together, because clearly the stuff with Iran had kind of cooled down by the time WrestleMania 1 came around. So what do? Okay, well, we're having problems with the Soviet Union. What do? All right, let's put the Iron Sheik, who's this great heel, with Nikolai Volkov, and they both hate the United States.
And pull off one of the biggest upsets in WrestleMania history, where they beat the team of Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham to win the tag team championships.
Yep.
But it was great, too, because if you thought about it, every time they would be in the ring, and they'd be like, here's Nikolai Volkov, who's going to sing the Soviet, national anthem. And every fucking time, Nikolai Volkov would go in there with the salute, and he would start singing the Russian national anthem, and people would boo. And the Iron Sheik would get on the microphone and just scream whatever came to his mind at the crowd, threatening to put him in the camel clutch, break their backs. I mean, it was gold. And nobody, like you said, nobody loved that, getting that heat like the Iron Sheik did. It's a shame. And that man got into the wrestling business in his 30s. He started out, I think it was in Vern Gagne's gym with Ric Flair in like 1973 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he used to have the washboard abs, and he had a full head of hair, and he could wrestle, and he was doing all the cool wrestling shit. And then once he got to Vince McMahon, he became fat and bald, and he's Haktui.
Yeah, Tim, poor Sheiky baby. So many great memories of him when I was a kid. I mean, I remember watching, whether it was like the MSG shows or WWF Superstars. Or Primetime Wrestling, and him and Volkov coming out and like Brainless One saying, doing the Russian national anthem, and when they would get pelted with whatever from the audience, and Sheik would get on the microphone, Russia or Soviet Union #1, Iran #1, USA, boy, like the dude knew it exactly what he was and what he wanted to do, but he also knew it. Hey, if anybody tries to come at me and attack me, I could beat the crap out of them.
When they came out with the first set of the action figures, the old school rubber ones, when they had Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Big John Studd, the Iron Sheik was one of them. The Iron Sheik was one of the first ever action figures made for professional wrestlers. I mean, what he meant, he literally kickstarted Hulkamania.
My brother had that Iron Sheik action figure.
My cousin did too.
ended up, I think, ripping off. But
Oh, one of my cousins had it. I don't remember which one, but one of my cousins had it.
um, what you call it? So, Mike Rainey was talking about how Duggan and Sheik got pulled over because they were drunk or what have you. Uh, I believe that's also the story where because of that they ended up getting tested for drugs, and and I believe it might have been only Sheik tested positive for cocaine, and Vince pulls Sheik into his office and says, "Yeah, we got the results of the test, uh, and you were positive for drugs in your system." And Sheik's reaction was like, "Yes," because positive to him meant something good. And then Vince had to say, Sheik, that positive is not good here. Uh, but I think Sheik said something about, well, what about Morocco, or what about so and so? He's like, they didn't test positive. He's like, well, they were with me. So more or less, and I'm sure he didn't mean to throw people under the bus, but he was like, the hell, I test positive, and like these guys were doing dope with me, but Sheik thought that being positive was good. Yes.
That story is always funny every time I hear it.
Yeah.
Because I could see, because like, could you imagine being like a cop and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and you just want to go home and you pull somebody over and it's the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I'm sorry, the Sheiky and the janitor.
Yeah. The WWE Hall of Fame janitor.
And F the Marks Hall of Famer, the Iron Sheik.
Yeah. So, as far as Sheiky Baby goes, I did have the pleasure to meet him several years ago. Got his autograph. It was actually down the street from my old workplace, and it was at a restaurant, and it was like $20 an autograph. And I was like, you know what? I love the Iron Sheik. I'll spend $20 to get his autograph, and I have a picture with him somewhere too. It is on our Facebook page if you look under the photos section. But you know, it was really interesting where I don't think he ever learned to completely write English. You know, basically what happened was his handler was the one who put like to Jason, and Iron Sheik just signed, you know, his name. Uh, but it was a cool little interaction. You know, he had his whole get up on, and the next night he actually was at a place called Top Rope Promotions, which kind of became infamous for the Scott Hall incident in 2010. But Iron Sheik was there for like one of their big events for the year, and that was a little bit after like the Howard Stern stuff had come out, and Hogan talked about how terrible, or Sheik talked about how terrible Hulk Hogan was, and that became, you know, part of his shtick out there. And but for that show, one thing that happened was they had a interviewer slash manager slash heel persona called Gene Joseph, and Gene Joseph like started off his interview kind of being like kind of uh, celebrating the Sheik and talking about all his accolades, and then went from that to healing up on him, and bringing up Hulk Hogan, and 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 basically after he talked about Hulk Hogan, Iron Sheik had heard enough. He took his cane ended up hitting Gene Joseph in the head and then hitting him in the back, and that was that. It was a cool little thing at a independent show that I went to several years ago, and F and Mark's Hall of Famer Sean O, I think, was driving Sheik around. But also that when we did that, the TV station I was working at the time, F and Mark's Hall of Famer Sean O did convince our news department to do a news story about that show, and it was not only Sheik there. Ox Baker was there. It was Spike Dudley's retirement match, and so they ended up doing the story about it, and that story ended up winning an AP award,
Holy
and
shit.
it won an award. And but there were a lot of cool things that went on with that, but it was cool to meet the Iron Sheik in person, talk to him, and just a cool dude that really, really made a big impact on the wrestling industry. They always talk about, if you're a face, you need a dance partner. Hulk Hogan needed Iron Sheik.
Nope.
So, Iron Sheik, you were not a jabroni. Thank you for humbling all the people that needed to be humble. And rest in peace, Sheiky baby.
Fuck the Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how we could transition from that, but the only thing I could think of is, it is episode 316.
What?
It is the Stone Cold Steve Austin episode.
What?
So we could talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin to kind of cheer us up a little bit.
All right.
And I could go on and on about Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was the biggest star of the Attitude Era, and shit. He's in a lot of people's Rushmores. He was the guy that people could look up to as the badass, because he was the guy that would go up constantly against the evil Vince Mr. McMahon. And it was great, and it worked for so long.
Yeah.
But it all started at the 1996 King of the Ring.
Yeah.
After Austin,
and if I'm remembering right, I believe that was June,
yes,
which would be like the 27th anniversary of the Austin 316 promo.
Yes.
So, Stone Cold. The fact that we have made it 316 episodes is quite something.
What?
What?
Yeah, just wait until we make it another 104, Jay.
Yeah.
The 420 episode is going to be epic.
Yeah.
But honestly, you did mention the Austin.
2 years away.
2 years away. We got this. Since you mentioned the Austin 316 promo, which one was more influential? I'm going to put you on the spot here. Which one was more influential in the lores of professional wrestling? Steve Austin's Austin 316 promo after winning the King of the Ring, or Hulk Hogan's talking about everything about the NWO after he leg dropped Randy Savage?
I have to go with Austin, just because the trajectory with Austin in general still goes up.
No.
NWO, on the other hand, like, it went up for a while and then, it just short-circuited. Now they still sell a crap ton of NWO merchandise. No doubt about that. But I think, I mean, if you're talking strictly the promo from Austin, I mean, Austin 316 is still one of the top selling shirts like this year. I don't think that the NWO shirt it sells well, but it does not sell as consistently well as Austin 316. And as far as I mean, if you're talking impact broadly, you know what happened at Bash at the Beach had a broader impact, but
Right.
the promo itself, I'd go with Austin.
I tend to agree with you, and it's just, I mean, the T-shirts you got from Austin 316. Not to say that you didn't make money off of the NWO shirts, but Kurt Angle came out and did an interview this week, and he said that there was 1 year that Stone Cold Steve Austin made $12 million just off of merchandise. And it was when this shirt came out, Kurt said he went to Vince, and Vince was like, look, I can't sell your shirt, man. He goes, the Austin one's just selling like hotcakes. He goes, I can only pay you for what you do in the ring. I can't sell your shirts.
Let me talk to you. Yeah.
Oh, my God. But is that crazy? $12 million in 1 year just off of merchandise.
It has turned into, I mean, quite the retirement package for Stone Cold. I mean, even the dudes from the NWO, I mean, I think Scott Hall said he was bringing in six figures just from the licensing for NWO merch every year. That ain't a bad living.
No, it's not. And, oh, man. And honestly, it's great because I can get this over with now. But because it is Austin 316 Day, I dedicated...
For the podcast.
Yes, it's Austin 316 episode of the podcast. I apologize. My brain has not fully returned. I think it's somewhere still on Jefferson Avenue.
Getting a step closer to dashing.
Oh!
I think one episode I'm going to wear a paper bag.
I was going to wear a paper... I actually had an episode where I had the paper bag all ready and made up, and when I put it on my head, it didn't fit right, so I didn't wear it for the podcast.
Mike Rainey, that 100% would be what I would want to see as well. If Austin did another match, he wants to see LA Knight and Stone Cold Steve Austin with a what and a yeah. Let me talk to you.
What?
Yeah? What?
That would be gold.
Yes.
But since it is episode Steve Austin 316, what?
What?
This week's the top 10 favorite moments of Steve Austin for the brainless one. Number 10, his Broken Skull Sessions episode with Mick Foley. I have never, and I tell you, I have never laughed harder watching two dudes just talk about whatever, like I did watching Foley and Austin talk about their time together in WWE. It was I did not realize how close they were and how great of friends they were, and those stories had me in tears. So I had to do that. I had to get a little, I had to get a little, Number 9, making Vince McMahon piss himself. Number 8, having a finger in creating his own beer.
Yeah.
Number 7, WrestleMania 38 beating the shit out of Captain Cupcake.
Yeah.
Number 6, the Zamboni to the ring. Number 5, his WrestleMania 14 main event against the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. The birth of the era of Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Number 4, his grocery store fight with Booker T.
Oh, yes, we have a cleanup in aisle 5.
Number 3, when he drove the beer truck to the ring.
Epic.
Number 2, his Austin 316 promo, like we mentioned, because that was the birth of Austin 316 and all that stuff, and the rest is history of how we birthed a goat that night. And my number 1 favorite Stone Cold Steve Austin moment, the night Vince McMahon was in the hospital and Austin beamed him with the bedpan.
Oh, nurse.
That not only is my favorite Austin moment, that's one of my that is my favorite moment in Raw. It just beats out Party Over Grandpa and Tea Time with Santino.
In addition to that, not only did we get Stone Cold the bedpan, but we also got the birth of Mr. Sacco and Nurple with Mick Foley just annoying Vince. So, like, Vince just getting annoyed, and, like, and Vince's reaction to, like, when Austin was, like, punching his leg, and he's like, ah! Ah! And and then when he just fell over after getting smashed in the head with the bedpan.
Oh, he hit him so perfect with the bed. It made the perfect sound.
Hennig could not have hit him any better.
No, there's no way.
Only Curtis Axel perhaps could have done it better.
And it's funny too that you mentioned Nurple the Clown. I know you remember this. I don't think anybody else remembers, so you'll get this. Years ago, when I was at work, we had a former employee who was very disgruntled, who used to do stupid things at the job, who decided one day he was going to send a bouncy house, some catering, and a clown to the job. I have seen the whole thing with Austin and Vince with the bedpan, with Nurple the Clown. By God, Jay, if I was a betting man, I would have thought that was the same clown that I sent packing. She looked like what I don't remember what Giggles or Bubbles the Clown, whatever the hell it was. Yeah, well, I got all dressed up, and well, I'm sorry, it's not my fault you decided to dress up like a clown in 100-degree weather.
Dude, Chris Brown. Not only can I not imagine them doing a spot like that now, but like everything about that night and that angle was just like so spot on. And as much as there have been some good strides in society, the fact that people can't laugh about crap like that anymore is a bad thing. That was just something special.
Are we talking about the MJF and Adam Cole Bebe promo from Wednesday?
No. He's talking about them trying to do like Stone Cold in the hospital today with Vince McMahon. And like, would it get them in trouble? Because at the end, Stone Cold sticks the thing up Vince's keister.
I mean, that part would have to get taken out, but the clown, Mick Foley with the dirty sock, and Steve Austin blasting him with the bedpan, I think could get away with. I think, shoving the thing up Vince's hindquarters, like especially like they did that time when Linda was going up against what's his face, and Vince had his campaign's logo over his butt. Yeah, they can't do that either. Yes.
Hey, pal.
Dick.
the dastardly Vince McMahon, who apparently was at Monday Night Raw this week, by the way.
Of course he was. It was in Hartford. People acted so surprised Vince McMahon was at Raw this week. Really? I'm sure it was a very far 45-minute drive for him from Stamford to Hartford. Oh, I'm sure he was devastated. He didn't have to fly. I'm sure people were just devastated he had to drive all the way to Hartford to watch Monday Night Raw in his home state.
Effin Mark's Hall of Famer Tim was in the audience this week and did say, like, of everybody there, Rollins, Cody,
Not surprised.
is loud as all hell. Rhea and Dom, crowd loud as hell. He said for Ronda and Shayna, like, he was saying you could kind of hear a pin drop. But if you were watching Raw, like I know it's way different in person versus on camera, but you could tell the crowd was hot as all heck. And that was a big crowd. It's a Monday Night Raw. What you could tell when the product is hitting on all or most cylinders based off the fact that they are selling out tickets. Ratings aren't quite what they used to be, clearly. But if you're selling tickets, like I remember back in the day, they would always talk about, oh, baseball ratings are in the toilet. Baseball is just not as popular as it used to be. Guess what? Most of those places sell out. If it weren't popular, people wouldn't show up. People would not spend their hard-earned money to go do something they don't want to see.
Right.
So television ratings may not be what they used to be, but when people are either putting it on their card or putting down their hard-earned money to buy merch or buy a ticket, that's saying an awful lot. The fact that they sold out the Civic Center, not like they tarped off 5,000 or 6,000 things. Like, it sounds like it was a legit sellout for a Monday Night Raw. It's been quite a while since they've been able to fill up a place like that on Raw. So.
Yep, and I've been to Monday Night Raw at the Hartford Civic Center. I'm pretty sure one of the times I went, it wasn't jam-packed capacity crowd. So.
I mean, it certainly helps that that's where WWE, that's the home state of WWE. Yeah. But, I mean, there was a while where, like, they would be in Bridgeport and do, like, the arena at Harbor Yard where it was more like 6,000, 7,000.
Yeah.
So, again, this speaks well to what Triple H has been doing. And, you know, if Vince McMahon is mostly remotely these days putting in suggestions or like, oh, hey, maybe we should reorder this as opposed to, you know, ripping up scripts 3 seconds before somebody's supposed to go out on camera and say stuff. Again, it says an awful lot about how well things have been booked and what they've been doing in general.
Yeah, I agree. And we saw it right after Cody came back, and they had to show that first Monday Night Raw in Norfolk. And they said they sold all but like 2 tickets to the entire show.
Right.
So, and I'll tell you, like, it's a lot of times for people, they don't want to watch it when it's live. They'd rather just go back when it was on like Hulu and watch Hulu and just skip through all the commercials and only watch whatever you want to watch.
Well, and the thing with Hulu is they generally do the big highlights of the stuff they really want you to see. So instead of it being a 3-hour albatross of you have to watch, you know, it's more manageable, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, that third hour, if you make it to that third hour, you feel like you're hungover the next day.
Right. All right, Chris Brown, bringing up something I wanted to talk about anyway. NBC has canceled Young Rock after 3 seasons. The ratings had gone down quite a bit in season 3, and they decided not to renew it. So one of the things I would say, I love The Rock, but the dude was part of a show on NBC, an HBO show, is acting in movies, owns the XFL. I mean, there is basically no place you don't see the man.
Just a WWE ring.
Right.
The one place that everybody wants to see him.
But if you see somebody so much, like there's a thing called oversaturation. As much as somebody could be the greatest thing, eventually it's like I like you, but hold up. So, but Young Rock, like their ratings this year were like half of what season 2 was. And that's not saying that the show was like a bad show this year. It's just people are like, all right, yeah, whatever.
It was the casting job, Jay. After that terrible casting job of whoever the guy was who's playing Triple H.
Walmart Stone Cold and
oh God, when they showed Stone Cold Steve Austin wearing a turtleneck, I was done.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way that a guy with the nickname the Texas Rattlesnake would be showing up to a party with his vest wearing a turtleneck.
But the first couple of years, they did a great job of like casting people that looked like, almost exactly like the person they were trying to portray. And that's one thing I think like Dark Side of the Ring has always done a really good job of getting somebody that was basically the same size, getting the same hairdo, and making it, when they're doing like reenactments, feel a bit more real by getting somebody that looks like the person. It's like the Stone Cold they got was far smaller than the person playing The Rock, and not as defined as the guy playing The Rock. So things like that tend to add up.
They did a better job casting for the Brooklyn Brawler than they did for Steve Austin and Triple H.
Yeah.
And the Brooklyn Brawler was played by Colt Cabana.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So, you know what? This just opens up an avenue for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to show up at WrestleMania next year. You don't have a TV show that you have to act in. Unless, is he still doing Ballers? Is Ballers still a thing on HBO?
I have no idea. I don't have HBO, so couldn't tell you. That was actually a good show, though.
It is.
What?
Yeah. Chris Brown, as far as The Rock and political career, he stated pretty emphatically, I forget if it was this year or late last year, he's like, yeah, my job right now is raising my kids. Any political aspirations he has, I think, are going to wait at least a decade. So next 10 years is going to be acting Rock and retirement match Rock and XFL owner Rock.
But don't worry about political aspirations, because for another person, their political aspirations got a lot clearer today, as WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump was indicted, which means that my path to the White House just got a hell of a lot clearer.
I don't know about that. Our country is in a very weird space right now. And this may help Donald Trump, because to the people who love him, this will make him, to an extent, a political martyr, because they think it's a witch hunt on him. And they will come out more so to the polls and be like, is bullcrap what's going on. The world has gone crazy. We've got a president who can't string two sentences together without stuttering or falling over. And we got a crazy WWE Hall of Famer, former president, who just constantly says things where you're like, shut the hell up for just a fucking minute. Just do your job and do your job. But he can't. He can't help himself.
Nope. But everybody...
The more sane people would win these things.
You're right. So what your everybody's job needs to be is that on that first Tuesday after the first Monday in November on election day, when you show up at your election poll centers, you march in there, and instead of putting your circle around Trump or DeSantis or Biden or whoever it is, you go down to the bubble, you circle it where it has the blank name, and you put brainless 1. Make America brainless again, baby. 2024. Can't be any worse than the last two.
MABA.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Don't worry, Cousin Jay. I'm sure you can handle Kamala Harris. It's not going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Quite honestly, I think I'd rather have Michelle be my proxy. Not only would she verbally take her down, I think she might also physically take her
down. It's going to be great because everybody's making fun of the binder. I can't wait until everybody gets a load of my freaking press secretary.
When Sean O does his first press conference, there will be nothing like it. Remember when Melissa McCarthy was doing Sean Spicer Saturday Night Live? Everybody thought it was the funniest thing ever.
I'm going to get impeached because of what Sean's going to say at his first press conference as press secretary. Because he's going to call everybody in the press a shitbag. He's going to get into a verbal confrontation with somebody. He's going to slap somebody in the camel clutch, and then it's going to be the greatest thing ever. And I'm going to, you know, my one day in office is going to be the greatest day in office. But you know, yeah. But I could, because you already know he's going to call everybody a shitbag. That's a terrible question.
Probably appropriate.
I'm going to invite Tommaso Ciampa to my inauguration.
Speaking of Tommaso Ciampa, it came out this week. He posted some photos of himself being bigger and stronger. It sounds like he is about ready to make his return to WWE. It sucks, like, that this dude was starting to really kind of find his groove on the main roster and got injured. I know he had talked about how his hip had really been bothering him for about a year, and the doctor went in and said, like, yeah, this was like shredded. How were you even like functioning? Just shows you how tough of a dude this Tommaso Ciampa is. And you know, he wasn't drafted to anything, so if they want to put him on Raw, if they want to put him on SmackDown, they could do that. If they want to bring him down to NXT, they could do that. But you know, at this rate, I'm not sure what they would do with him. I'm not sure where they would bring him back. I don't know if they'll bring him back as part of, like, you know, Money in the Bank is coming up. Do you have him help somebody out to win? Does he align himself with somebody like Logan Paul? Does he align himself with somebody like LA Knight and help one of those people win the Money in the Bank? And then they become like some sort of dynamic duo. R.I.P. Gino Hernandez and Chris Adams.
No, because he's going to get reunited to create another duo. I think that once Tommaso Ciampa comes back, he's going to get reunited with El Jefe's favorite wrestler, Johnny Gargano, and DIY's coming back. It took 3 days to get those stains out of the ceiling.
I mean, that's not the worst thing. I mean, building up the tag team division, having more competent challengers for the tag team titles, that there's nothing wrong with that. I'll take that.
And it's crazy because all these people, because I've been seeing online that because WWE has been kind of pushing into Sheer as a tag team. And, you know, for me, I fucking love tag team wrestling. You give me all the tag teams you want. I wanted FTR back. I wanted them to bring in the Ass Boys. I'd like to see the Lucha Brothers. I like to see all these tag teams. The only tag team I don't want to watch is the Young Bucks.
or the Hardy Boys, because Jeff should retire.
I still like Matt, even though Matt's CTE is starting to bother him to the fact that he's saying stupid shit in interviews. But I don't need to see Jeff Hardy wrestle a match ever again. I don't care. And that's really it. I mean, Motor City Machine Guns, I like to see them wrestle. I love tag team wrestling. So the fact that if they're going to bring back Tommaso Ciampa and put him with Johnny Gargano, and they were a very successful tag team down in NXT, I mean, that's just an extra, feather in the cap for Triple H. I know he's had some duds of people who have returned and everything, but bringing back Johnny Gargano and putting him with Ciampa, I mean, we knew Triple H wasn't going to do anything bad to those two. I mean, those are Triple H's two favorite people in the world that are not Stephanie or his daughters.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. I saw the pictures. I'm excited for his return.
Yeah.
He brings something to the table. He's got unfinished business. I want to see what he does. Whether it's in a tag team with Johnny Gargano or if it's like you said, he goes and helps Logan Paul or, even Dominic Mysterio win the freaking Money in the Bank or LA Knight. I'm on board with it.
All right. So both Mike Rainey and Chris Brown talking about the DIY possible reunion. I guess we'll find out, I think, fairly soon about that. Chris Brown also saying Street Profits are done at Money in the Bank. He said he's calling it now. Now, one thing I'll say about Street Profits is both of them have been pretty adamant that they don't want to have, a split up like, let's say, the Rockers. They more or less said that they're not going to break up. It might be something akin to what they did with
Kofi?
Yeah. Where they split up like Kofi and Xavier and Big E, but they didn't have them break up. They just moved them to different shows. But
yeah, and honestly, I think Angelo Dawkins is smart enough to not run through the pane glass window either.
Right. I knew he was going to do that.
The brain.
Speaking of somebody else, though, sounds like they're on their way back. We've been getting conflicting reports over the last several months about the Viper, Randy Orton. We had heard some stuff about, hey, maybe he's coming back for WrestleMania. He's having special boots designed. Then we end up hearing from his dad, doctors have kind of sort of said maybe he shouldn't ever wrestle again. And then a report came out this week that said, don't expect Randy Orton back during the summer, but he is expected back in calendar year 2023. What do you have to say about that, Brainless One?
My question is, because I don't remember exactly when Bob Orton said it, that his son wasn't coming back because the doctors advised him to not wrestle anymore. Because if he was wearing the cast as he was saying, and we're definitely getting the return of Randy Orton. If he had no cast on his hand, then there was a possibility. I don't know what this is. I think they're just trying to just keep people guessing. I don't think that they're the type of people, WWE, to kind of, like let their fans on to believe something when it's not true. I wouldn't feed out these rumors. Oh, he's coming back if he's not coming back. If his back is fucked, his back is fucked. You can't. There's nothing you can do about it. But I really do think that because of the fact that there's all this stuff where it's conflicting almost every week, it's almost like the Big Show. Like, is he going to be a face this week? Is he going to be a heel this week? I want to see him come back. I really do. Because the best part about Randy Orton, and you and I have discussed this numerous times, he's the guy you could throw in a rivalry with anybody, and it makes sense.
And the thing I think that might be slowing down the possibility of Orton returning, I think it's possible he could have returned maybe already.
Yeah.
His ending move. The dude allegedly has had neck fusion surgery. Him doing the RKO, which is what everybody wants to see, and he does it like 4 or 5 times during like each show he's on because people just want to see it. They end up feeding him a whole bunch of people. It's not like they have a swimming pool where like when he takes that bump,
you're hitting water.
Right.
You're hitting not concrete.
Right.
You're hitting wood.
And doing that all those times over 20 years, it takes a toll on you.
Yep.
And if he came back, and I'll say when he comes back, if we only get one of those, every once in a while during a pay-per-view, as opposed to 4 or 5 of them, or 2 or 3 of them when he's on TV, and he ends up using the punt more often, I'm okay with that.
Agreed.
I want dude to have a long and good life beyond being a professional wrestler.
Yep, I agree. And honestly, like, who doesn't want to see Randy Orton go up against Cody Rhodes? Randy Orton never got his title shot against Roman Reigns either. There's a lot of things you can still do with Randy Orton. Randy Orton could end Edge's career, all we know.
And Chris Brown, I think part of the thing with the punt as a finisher is when all the information came out about concussions, they certainly kind of wanted to get away from that. And when Orton used the punt, like, there's no way for them to, like, make it 100% safe where you won't get, knocked hard by that. The way Orton does it, he tries to hit on like the muscle part of his leg, and he won't do the extension until after he's gone through the head.
Right.
But even so, you are legit hitting the person in the head with your leg, and you're running hard with a lot of force. There's not a lot you could do to make it any safer than they already have. I think it would be, if they could figure out a way to make it safer, it would be great if they did that. There are other things he could possibly do to just.
What was his dad's finisher?
The cast to the head. His Ed's finisher was the superplex, which Randy Orton does use in his repertoire. But again, that would probably be one of those moves, if he's had neck fusion, he should probably stay away from.
Yeah. He might not be able to do the DDT off the ropes as much either. Because he's still he's hitting down. I mean, he could probably drop to his butt, but it's not going to have the same impact if he's not dropping all the way to his back.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. We'll see what Randy is like. I mean, I just, like you said, I really just want him to have like a good, happy life after his career is over.
Speaking of somebody who wants to have a good, happy life after his career is over, it sounds like Edge, his next appearance is supposed to be, at this moment, the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto in August. When they were in Toronto about a year ago, Edge said, hey, maybe it won't be a bad idea if about a year from now, when WWE returns, that maybe that's my last match. I don't believe Edge showing up in Toronto right after SummerSlam will be Edge announcing his retirement. It may be him saying that he's going to retire, but there's going to be something that happens that he's
We'll
going
prolong
to keep.
it.
I think he goes to at least WrestleMania 40.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe he goes beyond and stays until they go to Toronto again in 2024. What do you say?
I think he's. I don't see him going to like SmackDown or Raw and having it be his last match, unless he goes to like you said, it's right after SummerSlam. Well, what if SummerSlam's his last match and he just has his farewell in Toronto? That could be the way they do it. But I really do think we're going to see Edge in Philadelphia at WrestleMania 40 next year.
I think it's a big deal for Edge to be at WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
He has stated he would love to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Guess what? He had a feud with Seth Rollins where he basically came out on top. Seth Rollins is the World Heavyweight Champion right now. It would make sense for Edge to say, hey, wait a second, man. Like, I beat Seth Rollins. I beat Spooky Pal Finn. Maybe I deserve a title match.
I wouldn't be surprised if Edge fights. Oh, wait, no, Edge is on SmackDown. Never mind. I was to say, I wouldn't be surprised if Edge fought, Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, but I don't see, unless they do, because like they said, he's going to defend the title anywhere, anytime, any place, any who, any why. Right. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, this week on NXT, Braun Breaker came out at the end of the show and challenged Seth Rollins to come to NXT to challenge, so he could challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
And as KJ said after the Celtics won the NBA Finals, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Didn't he say that to Hondo?
Yes. Oh, Mayor Menino, we miss you.
All right, Chris Brown saying, as an add-on to that, Jay, when Edge is ready to drop it, have him drop it to Priest. So more or less, Edge winning the heavyweight title and then dropping it to Damian Priest. So, there were a little bits of seeds sown on Monday Night Raw of Damian Priest perhaps extracting himself from the Spooky Pals.
Spooky Pals.
Even more after the cameras stopped rolling, that there was a bit more of Damian Priest acting like maybe his time with the Spooky Pals is coming to an end. They have road test some of these things before they end up doing it, on camera.
And I'll say on the fact that you mentioned Damian Priest. He got high praise from officials backstage after his match at WWE Backlash against Bad Bunny. His matches against Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw, the same thing. The people backstage were so happy with both of their performances in the match. Damian Priest is going to get a little bit of more of the rub, I guess you could say. I think this is great. I enjoyed his time in NXT. He's got a very unique look. He's a very good in-ring performer. He can handle himself on the microphone. All it takes is for you to have an opportunity to present yourself and to showcase what you're able to do. And he did it. I mean, he took the best entertainer in music and had a freaking fantastic match with him. And he went toe-to-toe with the world champion and looked pretty damn good in that match too.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to see a little bit more of Damian Priest. I think it was bound to happen. I had a feeling he was going to be the one that was going to end up leaving. Although Finn would have made more sense, it's fine. But I had a feeling that Damian Priest was going to get, I got to go. I'm better off with Bad Bunny. I don't want to be spooky anymore, which is fine because then they can just take out Priest and put in JD McDonough so that they can have Finn Balor and his protege in the same faction together.
Yeah.
His protege who looks like a bobblehead.
Right.
Let me see. What do I have?
Well, I mean, so one thing I do want to talk about is Asuka and IYO Sky. They did a promo that they locked horns promo-wise against each other, but they did it in their native language, in Japanese, which when you're watching it, and if you don't understand, you're like, all right, you could tell they're pissed off at each other. But IYO in Japanese said swears on PG WWE. She referred to Asuka a couple times as a piece of shit. Asuka, for her part, more or less called IYO stupid. I don't know. That was like, shoot, like, I can't believe you're effing saying piece of shit in Japanese and you're stupid. Or she's just saying, IYO, you're stupid. I'm Asuka. I'm the Empress of Tomorrow today. You should bow to me.
Oh, that was such gold. And then, Lacey Evans came out as a bootleg Sergeant Slaughter and ruined the entire segment and just put it in the toilet. So glad to see her lose to Zelina Vega on SmackDown as Selena's going to Money in the Bank. Even though she was like, oh, me and you, Santos, we're going to win Mr. Money in the Bank. And no, it's not happening.
Right.
I don't think Becky's winning it either, but.
But with Lacey, Sergeant Slaughter's daughter came out and had an issue with it. And it sounds almost like Sergeant Slaughter also had an issue with the way she came out. What is your opinion on that?
If Sergeant Slaughter was against this whole time, because she definitely looks like a Slaughter ripoff. Somebody said you just put like a chin on her, she would look like Sergeant Slaughter's daughter, which I'm sure his actual daughter was not happy about. The only thing I know about Sergeant Slaughter's daughter was that she somehow, some way got retweeted in something on Twitter. It ended up on my timeline, and I happened to like it. And that led to, like, 2 hours later, Sergeant Slaughter following me on Twitter. I know really nothing else of Sergeant Slaughter's daughter. But if Sarge is not happy with Lacey doing this, because then you shouldn't have done this. I know that there was talks that they were thinking about putting her with Sergeant Slaughter, having her dress like Sergeant Slaughter. The Slaughter heel run, I don't.
What is the expiration date on somebody not getting upset about heavily borrowing from somebody? Sergeant Slaughter more or less has not been Sergeant Slaughter for 25 plus years, as far as that character dressing that way. Right?
I mean, how many times did he show up?
How many people did Ric Flair steal from?
I mean, it's not like they didn't have any other Nature Boys.
My God, I can't believe fucking Ric Flair did this. Lacey Evans legit was in the Marines. And I don't think Sergeant Slaughter was, I don't think he was legit Marine. He wasn't legit, like, drill instructor. Lacey Evans was. Sergeant Slaughter had a look, not a life. Lacey Evans had a life, and like, but part of me, they didn't want Elias to look too much like Randy Macho Man Savage. But, you know, it's okay if Lacey Evans is the female Sergeant Slaughter. Like, there's a lot for me going on here. But even so, Sarge, you have not been an active competitor for almost 30 years. Let it fucking go.
I have a...
They're complaining about Becky Lynch calling herself the man. Let it fucking go. Because guess what? Ric Flair, you stole from a whole bunch of people. Sergeant Slaughter, like, you stole from the U.S. Marines.
Sergeant Slaughter was an Iraqi sympathizer.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Beat him up.
My guess is, my theory is, his daughter probably didn't like the fact that Lacey Evans came out and said the stupid shit she was posting on social media maybe a month or two ago, or however long ago, within the last few months. And then when she came out and she looked like her dad and all that shit, she probably got pissed off about that. And just because you know how it is, all it takes is, you know, you seeing something, you not having a chance to comment on it. And then when you see said person again, it just seems like everything that upsets you about them kind of just happens at once. And that's my guess of what happened. And of course, he's going to side with his daughter because he's, I mean, what else is he going to do?
Right.
But I don't know what else they could do with this poor woman. How many more gimmicks are they going to give her? Are they going to just send her away and repackage her again?
Right.
Are they going to, I mean, what else? She hasn't done anything since she was the sassy Southern Belle. They should have never changed her from that character because she was actually good at that character. Then they just tried. We're gonna do these great promos to make her seem like an American hero. Then she comes out and does nefarious shit. Like, it was so stupid. Like, Emelina bad. I just think we're at a point because, like, Kenta's still talking about the fact that CM Punk stole GTS from him.
Speaking of which, we may get Kenta versus CM Punk at Forbidden Door 2.
Kenta said that Tony Khan needs to show him the bag if he wants him to show up. Probably not the wisest thing you could say to somebody who is Tony Khan.
Well, I heard that Tony Khan has an announcement coming up this week about something that might happen or may not happen coming up, but it's something that is a really big deal.
My favorite part was 55 weeks ago, wherever the hell it was, he came out and said, next week, he made an announcement about making an announcement. And then the following week, he made an announcement about how AEW Collision was going to debut on June 17th. And then the following week, he made another announcement saying it was going to be live from Chicago. And wouldn't you know, the week after that, he announced that CM Punk was going to be returning to AEW Collision in Chicago on June 17th. And then I went out and I made some memes, and a lot of people actually enjoyed those memes. I know I was chuckling really hard when I was putting them together. But wouldn't you know it, Tony Khan came out again this week and had another announcement.
Yeah?
He announced the main event for AEW Collision being the team of Samoa Joe,
The greatest Scout cookie seller of all time.
Yes, the seller of Samoas, and the Bullet Club Gold, which is Bridge Dweller, Juice Robinson, and probably the third most underutilized wrestler in AEW, Jay White, going up against the team of the Second City Saint, CM Punk, and the greatest tag team on planet Earth, FTR.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It makes an awful lot of sense to not one have like a newly returning star in a long singles match on their return, but also you don't want to sit there and burn through rivalries immediately by saying, hey, let's do a one-on-one match with this person. You know, as much as I have a lot of issues with CM Punk and how he's conducted himself, I think if he is a good citizen for AEW, he could do a lot of good. And he could help elevate not only himself, but other people within the company, because he knows how to tell a story, he knows how to cut a promo, and he knows how to, he knows in-ring psychology. He does not move like he did 10 years ago. No doubt about it.
Nobody does.
You don't need to move 5,000 miles an hour as long as you tell a good story. You don't need to have exploding super kicks. You need to know how to tell a story. If he remains a good AEW talent and citizen, he can elevate himself. He can elevate that show. And despite the fact that it sounds like ticket sales outside of Chicago have not been great as far as Collision goes, if you have, like, because guess what? Nobody knows what the hell Collision is going to be.
You hit the hit nail right in the head.
Create compelling stories, people will come. That's why last week on SmackDown, highest rated SmackDown in 3 years. And that's because a compelling storyline long term with the bloodline had some payoff to it. If you can craft good storytelling on Collision, you could get people to tune in, you could get people to show up and spend money to buy tickets to watch the show. Now, it's been reported that AEW knew that doing like Collision in Canada, across Canada to start with, might be a difficult thing selling tickets wise, because during the summer months, a lot of people actually aren't home. They go on vacation to other places. So to me, that's a little bit of a issue as far as like AEW not realizing, oh wait, maybe we shouldn't go to Canada during the summer when people are on vacation. All that being said, people are on vacation in the United States during the summer. But with Collision, I'm certainly willing to give them a little leeway and see what the heck happens with it. I think it's going to end up being bigger than Rampage. I think it's gonna be a positive overall. But I'm interested to see where it goes and where it goes with CM Punk. I think, based off the things we're hearing, that Jay White might be his first thing, because clearly AEW has done a lot of botching as far as getting one of the biggest free agents in the market to sign with them, and they've done almost nothing with him. CM Punk, I think, is going to do his best to make him into a star in the United States.
It's going to be interesting because they really did start planting the seed that they're going to do Jay White and Hobo Juice Robinson, and they're going to be going up against FTR because, honestly, they really don't have legitimate tag teams in the tag team division for FTR, when one of your most legitimate threats is Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. And again, it's not a shot on either one of them, because I hope I can do anything half as good as Jeff Jarrett wrestles in his 50s.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and trash Jeff Jarrett, even though he only made $30 in his entire career.
There was that person.
One person paid $30 to see Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett made $30 in his career, which is $20 less than Dana Brooke.
Yeah.
But I just...
Jeff Jarrett was the second worst segment I've ever seen in professional wrestling I've ever seen.
Hogan?
Old Day.
Oh.
Yeah. But Jeff Jarrett on TNA one time was trying to prove he was a shoot fighter and ended up doing this segment where he was doing like shoot MMA fights against a bunch of randoms. He did his best to make it seem good and important. It was absolute garbage. It's one of the worst, like I said, number two of the worst things I've ever seen in professional wrestling.
No, when I was asking Hogan, I was asking when Jarrett laid down in the ring, when Vince Russo basically gave the title to Hulk Hogan and Hogan walked out of WCW. That's when I was asking about Hogan. I already knew the old day. I just didn't want to.
A segment where Jeff Jarrett tries to showcase his MMA blades. It's terrible.
I just figured because Vince Russo was attached to it, it made more sense. But you're right. That is bad. And I really didn't want to mention the old day because then
Russo was also attached to this Jeff Jarrett segment in TNA.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked.
That's the shocker!
Oh, what was it? I forget where it was that I saw it. Since we're on the concept of Russo, because they're doing the Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes 3 at SummerSlam. They want to have a special stipulation for the match, and I guess they had suggested they wanted to make it a dog collar match. One of the two, my guess is Cody, shot down the idea of the dog collar match. Somebody goes, geez, I don't think that they would ever think about bringing in another forklift for a match. Like, what are they going to do? Brandy Rhodes on a forklift?
If they want to go with a special stipulation, they could always do the leather strap match, because that was what his dad was known for.
You could do one of those.
I mean, if they're trying to make it something as out there and crazy stipulation, I think it's got to be more than, bull rope match.
It's going to be a stairs match, Jay.
If we have the Cinnamon Toast Crunch stairs match at SummerSlam, sign me up.
We might not get the Cinnamon Toast Crunch stairs match, but now that this India show's getting some momentum in September, and they're starting to push into Sheer a lot more on Raw, are we out of the realm of possibility that we get the Jinder versus the Messiah, the Architect, Seth Franklin Rollins, World Heavyweight Championship inside the Punjabi prison?
I think we have more of a possibility of seeing Captain Cupcake and Sami Zayn versus Indus Sher in the Punjabi prison. We will have the first ever tag team match in a Punjabi prison match in India this September.
As long as the Great Khali has a part in it, that's all I care about.
Yeah. Tim, no. That is a bad idea. I versus an I match 2. No. No. No.
I got the list.
I'm like, there's no way this match can end any good. This is going to be shit. It was shit.
I'll tell you, that'd be one hell of a list for 10, but I definitely can't wait to do my Tony Khan ruins the debut of Collision with his shitty booking top 10 for next week.
It's going to be great.
I can't wait.
It's going to be the St. Patrick episode, 317.
Oh, God, am I going to drink again?
Next week, it's got to be a Guinness, apparently.
Well, it's better than doing Edward 40 hands.
All right, Chris Brown saying, how about a Fireball Hell in a Cell match? Does that mean that they have to drink Fireball, like, as part of the match? I think our friend Kevin would be pretty good at that after our friend Eddie gave him a couple of shots of Fireball.
I love bits, and that's still one of my favorite bits. Every time we get Kevin and Eddie together, Eddie has to buy Kevin a shot of Fireball.
And Kevin doesn't want it, but he
because he has to.
Yeah. So I don't know how we get into this, but I'm going to bring it up anyway.
Let's do it.
Bobby Fish did an interview this week, and he said the reason why he's not with AEW anymore is they could not come to terms on the amount of money he should get paid.
That's because
say about that.
That's because WWE. Wow, AEW was not able to get a hold of Social Security to find out how much of his paycheck they were going to cover, and then they called AAR and they completely dropped the ball on calling AARP as well to see how much he's covered for. So I can understand why. You do realize that Bobby Fish was Joe Biden's favorite wrestler when Joe Biden was in college.
When Bobby Fish went against Simon Gotch, you know, that was really something. He trained him. When Bobby Fish went against Kane. I mean, that was something. At that point on Earth, like, they didn't know what professional wrestling was. Bobby Fish invented professional wrestling.
So my question to you is, what is more impressive? The fact that Bobby Fish fought not only Simon Gotch, but Carl Gotch and trained them both, or the fact that he wrestled Kane and he wrestled Kane from Cain and Abel?
And beyond that, I mean, he won against Abraham Lincoln.
The only person to beat him was Bobby Fish.
And he was, I hear, one of King Tut's bodyguards.
I was going to say, when he was coming off the Mayflower, he did a double axe handle and landed on Tatanka's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
I hear that's true. There was that time in the 1800s where Lewis and Clark were going across America and they needed a guide, and they're like, nobody knows what's going on in this country. This is uncharted territory. And Bobby Fish said, "Hold my beer, I got you." It wasn't Lewis and Clark guiding across the nation. It was Bobby Fish.
Bobby Fish got on Noah's Ark, and when Noah said there's too many people, he goes, "I'm a fish." And he's like, "Well, I only have 2 of each." He threw a bass overboard. Two of every animal.
Yeah.
Bobby Fish.
Bobby Fish was there.
Was he one of the 3 wise men, too?
Yeah. Yes.
He brought the frankincense, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was behind Joseph and Mary at the end. He got the last suite before Joseph and Mary did.
Bobby Fish is the reason why there was no more room at the inn. He's the reason why Jesus was in a manger and not born in a hotel room.
He took down a pterodactyl, Jay. Come on. We're underselling the shit out of Bobby Fish here.
When an eagle tried to take out Bobby Fish, I wish there was video of it, but he gave the eagle an RKO. Bobby Fish invented the RKO.
Bobby Fish invented wrestling.
Diamond cutter? No. That wasn't the first. It's Bobby Fish.
He's the reason why we have the term fish out of water.
Yes.
It never gets old.
Hieroglyphs, when they have the fish, that's Bobby Fish.
Yeah, the jokes never go old, just like Bobby Fish.
He's been 50 for the last 6,000 years.
He was 137 years old. 137 years old. Man, you never wrestled no Bobby Fish.
Yeah.
Yeah? Since we did talk about Forbidden Door, there is one official there's 2 official matches for Forbidden Door. I could really give 2 shits, a rat's ass, or a flying you-know-what about Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay having a rematch, although I really hope Will Ospreay breaks Kenny's face. We get the battle of the GOAT and the GOAT. Daniel Bryanson and Okada. That right there is worth the $50 for Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
That's gonna be. I can't wait. I might have to go sell a kidney just to make sure I can get this show.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't too many matches out there where you're like, this is so unique. Lord knows if I'll ever see it again. Bryan Danielson and Okada. I mean, one of the things for Danielson when he left WWE was like he really wanted to have some stuff going on in Japan, and it sounded like WWE was kind of sort of on board. Like, all right, yeah, hey, we'll let you do this if you really want to. But you know, right here, I mean, you have a pay-per-view, and they make no mistake, they are the headliner.
Oh, absolutely.
They are what people are putting their money down for. And like you said, I may slap down my money so I could see Bryan Danielson and Okada in a match.
Yeah.
Been a bad match from them is probably going to be 4.5 stars. If it were in the Tokyo Dome, it'd be 9 minimum.
Meltzer gave 5 stars to that trash match those assholes had with the exploding sneaker.
Interesting.
I don't. I don't. I don't. I can't. And I don't. I can't. And I don't. No. How explain to somebody needs to explain to me, whether it's you or him or whoever it is, needs to explain to me how Kurt Angle never had a 5-star match. And Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat from WrestleMania 3 was not a 5-star match. But you'll give a match where a guy got super kicked with an exploding sneaker and kicked out at fucking 2, and you gave that 5 stars?
Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21 should have been 5 stars. Many of the matches with Kurt Angle and AJ Styles in TNA should have been 5 stars. Dave Meltzer was off his rocker. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Uh,
I just don't get it. I don't get it. How could you? Whatever.
Speaking of off his rocker, I think in 2 weeks from now, we're going to finally see the Marty Jannetty episode of Dark Side of the Ring. I have seen the first 2 episodes of this season, the Magnum TA episode and the Sonny and Chris Candido episode. All in all, I'm not going to say it's bad, but it's not as good as it used to be.
Okay.
The stuff with Sonny and Chris Candido, part of it is Sonny's in the middle of legal proceedings and didn't want to be interviewed because of it, and she was advised by her attorney not to be a part of it. They used past interviews that she's done, but nothing that was actually on camera. It was all audio stuff. But, I got to learn a little bit more about Chris Candido and the fact that the dude died because he flew too soon after breaking his ankle. That's a bummer. Like, I knew he died young, and I knew it was something freakish. I didn't know it was like, oh, he broke his ankle and decided that he really needed to be on TV and flew in a plane and caused himself to get a blood clot. That's just sad as all hell. Sonny, like you end up hearing these stories where like Sonny was going into like medical school and was going to be a doctor. She got the wrestling bug, and when you see where her life and Chris's life ended up, it's like, shit, man. I think they probably had a fun ride in professional wrestling, but like legit both lives ruined. When I think about Miss Elizabeth, her family doesn't want her in like the WWE Hall of Fame because the wrestling industry killed her. And I love professional wrestling. But when you hear these stories, it is really difficult.
Yeah.
You know,
it really is.
That you know, it was like Sonny and Chris were like shooting stars. They had a moment and flared out. And it's like, damn. Then this week was the episode on Magnum TA. His story is not as sad.
Very unfortunate.
Unfortunate accident, but like he was able to kind of get his life and get himself together. But with them, you know, having an hour to try to tell the story of some of these things, it feels like there are certain elements of storytelling that are lacking.
Right.
Like you're trying to put a whole bunch of information into 45 minutes, and you just gloss over a couple things that like are actually really important. But again, the shows are good, but they're not great like they were in the first couple of seasons. So far, I am still 100% greatly looking forward to hearing Marty Jannetty, the man who possibly admitting to murdering somebody. And they showed in the promos a whole bunch of times where he talks about the highest of highs and lowest of lows, and basically being the butt of jokes for the last 30 years of like, are you the Jannetty?
Yep.
But I think we're going to have the Doink the Clown episode before we get the Jannetty episode.
I have to figure out how the hell to frickin' find this shit because my brainless ass got rid of Hulu because I was getting tired of paying what I was paying to have the Hulu app just stop working 5 times a day while I was watching something. So I switched to YouTube, which is nice. I like having the YouTube. It's a little bit cheaper, but I now don't have Vice on YouTube.
Sad.
So I got to figure it out. And it's not on YouTube like the regular YouTube. Like I've tried looking. I've searched for Chris Candido Dark Side of the Ring. I can't find it. But one thing I did watch, I did end up finishing up this week. I finally stomached the rest of Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior from what was it, Bash at the Beach 98? Halloween Havoc 98. Thank you. All I'm going to say to you, Jay, without giving it away, that match, without question, did not live up to their match at WrestleMania 6. Not even close. And we're not talking about WrestleMania 6 being an all-time classic either.
like WrestleMania 7 with the Ultimate Warrior, or SummerSlam 92 with the Ultimate Warrior.
Jay, Hogan's over-the-top, egregiously obnoxious laugh that he has heard throughout at least 2/3 of the match. I had to stop watching it twice and took a break because it was that bad. I actually wanted to reach through my phone and beat the shit out of Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Right?
But I did draw the next match. You're going to love this. So, because I'm having Nicole pull all the names out of the hat. So after that one, I said, all right, Nicole, let's get this over with. And I'm sitting there, no kidding, no kidding, no kidding, no kidding. She pulls out the name. She goes, what's Cole versus Lawler? I said, it's going to be a very hard 15 minutes.
That's what she said.
I'm about as excited for that. I'm just glad I actually went dashing instead.
Yeah.
I'll get to that match this weekend. I'm so looking forward to watching Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler for the second time. Because I even said it 12 years ago that I really can't wait to watch this match another time, sometime down the road and possibly on a podcast.
Speaking of things that you really can't wait to see again, Nia Jax is in training possibly for an in-ring return. What do you have to say about that? Do you hope that she tears both her ACLs?
I want to see Nia Jax return to the professional wrestling ring about as much as I want to see Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
I do not want to see that woman ever get into a wrestling ring again. Jay, I can't have a tism like I had that is still on our YouTube page because I don't think I have it in me, and I think it might actually kill me if I actually have a rant of the magnitude I had with Nia Jax all those years ago.
All right, Chris Brown saying, someone hand me a fork so I can put it in my eyes. Don't worry, she'll be coming back with Eva Marie.
Oh, see, and there goes the phone.
Champions. Oh, Chris Brown, here comes LA Knight. Let me talk at you, yeah?
Yeah?
LA Knight kind of probably should have put his foot in his mouth this week. He mentioned in an interview that more or less that the locker room these days is filled with gamers and nerds, and I believe specifically said Zelina Vega is one of them. Zelina Vega was asked about this, and let's just say she wasn't thrilled with what LA Knight said and said, well, maybe LA Knight should concentrate more on being himself instead of The Rock or Stone Cold Light. And I quote.
Oh, see, now I needed some context because I saw that comment. I didn't know he made the comment before where the locker room was full of nerds and gamers. That makes more sense. Now I actually enjoy the fact that she made that comment. I'm like, why would she make that comment? Why would she just go out and just like go after LA Knight for no apparent reason?
Yeah.
Now it makes sense. So, okay. All right, Zelina. Now that I got the total picture, okay. Okay, I'm okay with that. At least he won and he's in Money in the Bank. And I really think he's going to win it too.
Yeah.
We'll discuss it in a few weeks when we do the podcast for it.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, I'm picking LA Knight. Let me talk to you. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of another person you probably don't want to see return to the ring, and she's not going to anytime soon, Billie Kay announced that she is pregnant.
Good for her.
Billie Kay, good for you.
I'll tell you right now, I have no problem with Billie Kay. Her last bit of run when she was in WWE, where she was just trying to hand her picture to all the people so she could work for them. That bit was actually funny as shit. She did her best Sandow that she could to make that work. And again, the Iconics were such a great tag team, and I was really pissed to see an actual tag team get broken up when you were trying to build your tag team division. Speaking of which, on the tag team division, two things. Number one, Katana Chance and Kaden Carter made their debut for Monday Night Raw this week, going up against the tag team champions of Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. And I'll tell you, they looked really good.
Yeah.
They had a great showing. For a team that just went in there just to go up against a team that just won the tag team titles and have a competitive match with them, I was impressed. And I'm hoping that we get to see a little bit more of them further down the road, because I've been a fan of Casey Canizaro since she made it to NXT, and I think that her and Kaden Carter are an excellent tag team.
Yeah.
And the other note I have with the women's tag teams is apparently WWE is thinking about unifying the tag team championships, the NXT and the regular women's tag teams, and finally having one single women's tag team to defend on all three brands. Gee, that sounds like something that I mentioned on this podcast at least once or twice.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's going to lead to a feud between Ronda and Shayna and Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, which sign me up. Those two girls, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, are really good in the ring. They're a great tag team. I think that rivalry is going to be fantastic. And hell, if they want to do like a best of 7 to crown the unified champions, sign me up. I mean, as much as I don't want to watch 7 matches that Ronda Rousey could potentially be in, Shayna Baszler is going to make those two girls look really good, and those three are going to make that match entertaining. I can only hope that Ronda Rousey doesn't botch enough. But another thing for in regards to women in WWE, we got former NCAA women's basketball players, the Cavender twins, who are on an NIL deal with the WWE, apparently make their debut on NXT this week.
Yeah, it was just a on-camera thing. It was not them wrestling. But clearly, like, WWE wants to strike while the iron's hot. I hope this works out better than Gable Steveston. But, you know, they put him on TV, which, I mean, that says something. I hope they're not trying to rush them. Not everybody grasps things as quickly as like Logan Paul or Bad Bunny.
I'll say this. The way that they handled it by having them come out at the end of Thea Hale winning the Battle Royal to be the number 1 contender and celebrating with her and Chase U, I like that. It's not like they went out there and it was like, you know, Thea Hale won the match and then they attacked her and then did like some tag team move on her. I think introducing them to the NXT crowd the way they did was a nice move, because they need to get to, if they're going to actually consider this as an opportunity going forward, they have to go to the Performance Center. Their dad's not Rey Mysterio. They can't skip NXT.
All right. Chris Brown saying, Nick Khan saying he no longer looks at NXT as developmental, but as a viable brand on its own. And this is what I say to that. NXT was a viable brand on its own. Vince McMahon got butthurt because they got their ass kicked by AEW. They were a viable brand. They were selling out Madison Square Garden. They were selling out large arenas whenever WWE had a large event. They did okay in Norfolk when we went when NXT was not a large brand.
Yep.
Vince McMahon cut the cord, I think, a bit too early as far as NXT versus Dynamite. Or he should have said, it's okay if we don't beat them. I know his competitive nature probably won't let him say that. As long as we're putting on a good product, which they were, but again, I come back to the idea that AEW was in arenas that had like 10,000 people, and when you've got that versus being in the performance center or being at Full Sail University and you got a few hundred people, that there's a visual difference, and people will be drawn to the larger crowd, no matter how good your product is.
I'll say this: as bad as it was that NXT, was kind of stripped of what it was, and Vince tried a different aspect, and now it's kind of merging back to what it was. If it wasn't for the fact that happened, I don't know if we would have gotten Braun Breaker the way we did. Them doing the 2.0 the way they did, where they kind of sent off the guys who were there for a while, the Tommaso Ciampas, the Johnny Garganos, those guys kind of having their flowers moment and everything. We got Braun Breaker, and Braun Breaker became the face of NXT. And if you think about it, who has been a bigger star for NXT than him since the last year or so? Okay, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Okay, it's fine and dandy that Baron Corbin wasn't drafted, so he gets to go down to NXT, and Mustafa Ali's a free agent. He can go to NXT. Dana Brooke, whoever it is, all these free agents could all go to NXT. Fine, they're free agents. Von Wagner was on NXT. Wasn't drafted. He was a free agent. Yet, he's still doing vignettes on NXT. He did a thing with a therapist this week that I just happened to catch.
Not talking.
And it was not. It was a female, and he acted like he was gonna I'm the mag, kind of like the mag. Like, no, buddy, she's gonna see you walk in and say no, because you're gonna open your mouth and just speak. Kind of like any woman before I met Brainless Wife on any first date I've ever had. He's all right until he opens his mouth. But I just don't get. He's a free agent, but now he's still in NXT.
Let me talk at you. Yeah.
I think that it's unfortunate that we got stripped of what NXT used to be, but in the end of the day, we did get guys like Tony D'Angelo. We got now Cora Jade. We got Roxy or Roxanne Perez, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane, the Creed brothers, Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker. They have a lot of really good talent down there. A lot of really good talent. And I think that the future of WWE is not as bleak as it might have looked a few years ago. When you had the Survivor Series match when the youngest guy was Jason Jordan, and the only other person who was under the age of 40 was Randy Orton.
Speaking of the future not looking bleak, Nick Khan in an interview spoke of the media rights negotiations going well with Fox and with NBC Universal, saying that they're still under the sole negotiating rights with NBC Universal, but are outside of that with Fox. He also mentioned that with Peacock has 22 million subscribers, and he said He's like, I cannot give you the exact number, but many of them in the millions
and
are
millions.
network. And he believes that WWE has actually overperformed as being part of the Peacock network and is seeking to whoever their next streaming partner happens to be to get more money. Clearly, they're seeking that also with their media rights deal, seeing what AEW was able to get for a fledgling company. I don't think he's talking crazy. I think that WWE might get maybe even double of what they got for what their deal was with Peacock to continue to stream WWE network content in the United States. And I continually like when we saw that article several months ago talking about how Fox is losing hundreds of millions of dollars on WWE TV. I'm sorry. If they were losing that much money, USA Network would probably be losing even more.
Yep.
USA Network has had how long of a relationship with WWE? Guess what? They're not. Bad reporting, bad fact checking is what I'm going to say with that.
And the USA Network's not going to get rid of Raw, just like Comedy Central will never get rid of South Park. You're not going to get rid of your number one show. I'm sorry, you're not. I don't care what you say or what you think. You are the home of Monday Night Raw, the flagship show of WWE, the biggest wrestling promotion in the world.
As much as for the last decade and a half, you could sit there and look at Raw and be like, it was USA that asked them to do 3 hours. They said, we'll pay you more if you do 3 hours. And that's because guess what? USA Network makes money off the show. Why would they pay them more for a third hour if it was against their interest? They wouldn't.
To torture the fans.
Right. But they don't torture enough fans enough for everybody to tune out. They torture enough of us to leave, but not all of us. So Nick Khan's probably right. I think they're going to back up the trucks, pay WWE a whole bunch of money because, again, I come back to the fact that they do not have unionized writers. They don't have unionized actors.
Yep.
You will not have a strike. Those people will show up every week. When COVID was going on, guess what? Monday Night Raw was there every week. Friday Night SmackDown was there every week.
Even the
cost happened. It was Twinkies and WWE that continued to exist.
cockroaches.
Cockroach.
Cowboy fans.
And Bobby Fish. I'm sorry, I forgot the last couple. Anyway.
That's such good shit.
Brown, I would say SmackDown is not equal footing to Raw. I'd say it's over Raw. The fact that SmackDown is on network TV, they have a larger audience. They have the biggest star in WWE on their show. SmackDown is the A show. As much as Raw is still the flagship show because that's what WWE has been built on for the last 30 plus years, SmackDown is the A show right now.
Yep, I agree. Speaking of SmackDown, Roman Reigns got a new championship last week as they took his 2 titles and turned it into 1. What is your thoughts on what that title looked like?
You know, I don't think it looks much different than the 2 titles that were there. It's just a different color. And I didn't think either of those titles were objectionable. But of the current designs of championships, quite honestly, I think my 2 favorites are the U.S. and the Intercontinental title as far as current designs.
I don't like either of those. I don't like the tag, or not even the tag. There's not really any of the titles I really like. The one that Roman got was pretty spiffy. I'm not going to lie. It looked a little bit better than the Universal and the WWE Championship. Of course, I'm always going to be partial to the Winged Eagle World Heavyweight Championship. That will always be my favorite belt. But I'm also nostalgic, so I like the old school Intercontinental titles. And it just looks like, Gunther has a title with a freaking spinning top on it. Like it's a dial and it's going to land on a random number.
I like the way the new Intercontinental title looks. And quite honestly, I think the new U.S. title, of the different U.S. title designs I've ever seen, the one I like the most outside of this one that Lex Luger had back in WCW back in the early 90s. I loved that version of the U.S. title. I didn't like the version, let's say, that John Moxley held for 10 months that he defended twice. I thought that was like, it felt like they phoned in the design for that, in my view.
See, I like that one because it was an upgrade from the spinning championship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this much as I was not a fan of the U.S. title when it first came out, it's starting to grow a little bit on me. I don't hate it as much as I used to. I can't stand that Intercontinental title. I'm sorry. It just, like I said, it looks like a spinning top. It looks like the lid on the bucket you would get in your Happy Meal from McDonald's at Halloween. I mean, there's just so many different things I could go with that, but I just don't like
a penny like the tag team titles do.
Oh, back in the day they did.
Anyway.
Yeah, I kind of like the new one. I think the colors definitely enhance it a little bit. I didn't know what they were going to do. And apparently Asuka's getting a new title, and so is Rhea Ripley. So I'm curious to see because
what we see for the heavyweight title and what we see for the WWE Universal Championship.
I hope she spits on it with that blue mist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of titles, Swerve Strickland and Orange Cassidy had a pretty solid match on Wednesday's Dynamite for the International Championship. And much to the surprise to the brainless one, Orange Cassidy came out on top.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, just the way that Swerve was carrying himself, how he won the match, what's been happening with Orange Cassidy. I was like, they're going to do the title switch. I could just feel it. And I'll tell you, when he hit the double stomp from the top rope and he kicked out at 2, I lost it. I cannot believe that the greatest champion in professional wrestling right now is Orange Cassidy. But, I mean, honest to goodness, excellent match. Fantastic way to start off Dynamite. And that's really one of the few things I do disagree with very full-heartedly with James E. Cornette is that he hates Orange Cassidy. I fucking love Orange Cassidy. I dig the gimmick. It's something different. It's something unique. And the dude could wrestle.
Right.
Him and Will Ospreay had match of the night at Forbidden Door last year.
Yeah.
People need to remember that. But I had to mention it because, I have no idea what the hell they're doing with Swerve. I mean, he was in a tag team with Keith Lee, and then they put him with Sledge or Tredge or Trench or whatever the fuck the guy's name is, and Parker Boudreaux, who couldn't wrestle if his life depended on it. And then they got rid of those guys, and now he's in the NBC with Brian Cage and whoever the other guys are. The guys with the really cool tag team name. I forget what it is, but it's fucking awesome.
Right.
But Tony Khan has no idea what to do with Swerve Strickland, and all you have to do is just let him be Swerve Strickland. He doesn't need to be a part of Mogul Embassies or Moguls or Keith, Swerve in Our Glory. Just let the man be himself. Vince was stupid enough to release him. Just let the man be himself.
Chris Brown, here's an AEW question for the brainless one. Is Ricky Starks the next one to leave AEW? I'm assuming he means leave AEW to go to WWE.
I can see it.
Do you see him going to WWE over MJF and or before MJF?
It depends on when his contract is up. If his contract is up before MJF's, I can absolutely see absolute Ricky Starks there. He's really good friends with Cody Rhodes. William Regal even said before he got fired by WWE, there was 3 people he was trying to bring to WWE. Wheeler Yuta, kind of glad he didn't. Ricky Starks, I would have loved to have seen Ricky Starks in WWE. And the man of 1,000 faces, Daniel Garcia. Because hell, Daniel Garcia was having matches on NXT. He had dark matches on NXT, or not dark. He was in squash matches on NXT. So I think so did Ricky Starks. I would love to see Ricky Starks. The dude could wrestle. He's got a presence about him. He could get reactions from the fans, and the dude could talk. And all they're doing is wasting him by having him feud with the freaking meth head and freaking Jay White in the bullshit Bullet Club. How they're doing this where they're going to have meth head freaking Juice Robinson, who couldn't even get out of WWE developmental, Jay White, who has been underutilized since the day he signed his contract with AEW. And, oh, by the way, it looks like the Ass Boys are going to be in the Bullet Club.
Okay.
Carl Anderson is losing the rest of whatever's left of his hair over this. This is not what he had for a vision of a Bullet Club when he made it with Finn Balor all those years ago.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I have with Dynamite was MJF and Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
MJF had some zingers. He mentioned the fact that he was, that Adam Cole was supposed to be, first he started off by saying, Adam Cole, you were the guy that after Punk left, I needed somebody, and it was you. And I looked up to you, and I idolized you and all this stuff. And when you got here, I was thinking, this is going to be great. I'm going to get this guy, Adam Cole. And he kept making all the WWE innuendos in his promo, talking about how he shot the system. And then how he got to WWE, and he was pale and frail and a shell of himself. And then he was like, there was a guy in Stamford, Connecticut that didn't see you as a main eventer, and his name was Vince McMahon. He thought you were nothing more than Keith Lee's manager. I thought it was an interesting route that they went. And that he threw the daggers that he threw at Adam Cole. And Adam Cole made some really good rebuttals. And I'll tell you right now, Cole and MJF is going to be, my God, it's going to be a 5-star match. Absolutely. The build-up's going to be fantastic. The match is going to be fantastic. I do know that there are people out there that say that they're getting tired of MJF talking shit about AEW and that he needs to stop.
Do they realize that when they do that, that encourages him more to do it? I don't think they do.
I don't think they care.
Anyway.
But I just, it's good because after the last, feud that we had for MJF, where it was the 3 of them, where we had to endure months, or we had to endure weeks of Sammy Guevara and Jungle Boy. So the fact that we're going to get Adam Cole, which is funny how a lot of the people on the list that MJF said he wants to fight as now that he's champion, he keeps checking those names off.
Right.
Because Cole was on there, Bryan Danielson was on there, the 3 that he just wrestled were on there, and I wonder if this is like his farewell tour of people he's going to defend against, and once his contract's up, he's going to drop the belt to whoever he's going to drop the belt to.
Well, I guess we'll find out in the next about 6 months.
I can't believe it's 6 months away. 6, 7, something like that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
No, I touched base on everything I wanted to touch base on. Is there anything else for you, sir?
I got good, bad, and brainless to touch on.
You know what? So do I.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for our good, our bad, and our brainless.
All right.
So what do you got for your good this week, Cousin Jay?
There were a couple of stories out there this week talking about how John Cena with Make-A-Wish really didn't want that to be made public. But John Cena, they officially recognized him in the Guinness Book of World Records, has made, I believe it's 650 wishes happen. Cena says that he would drop everything to give, somebody a child who is sick, an incredible experience. The next closest person doesn't even have 200. John Cena, who is incredibly busy, like taking his time to make kids dealing with crap they shouldn't have to deal with, life a little bit brighter, as much as he should not kick out of 2 after a DDT on the concrete. He certainly has done a lot of good in the world as a whole. So, John Cena, you are my good for this week.
I'm glad you mentioned it because I really wanted to mention it and I'd forgotten and I didn't write it down and I'm terrible for it. But one story really quickly on the John Cena front was when they had this whole thing that started with Ukraine about a year ago with them and Russia. And there was the story about a family was trying to move this young man from Ukraine out of Ukraine and he had special needs. So his mother told him that they were going to Poland or wherever country they were going to. I want to say it was Poland because John Cena was going to be there waiting for them. John Cena caught wind of it, flew out there, and met the kid where they ended up at. So honest to goodness, especially after all the things I've heard about Hulk Hogan over the years, John Cena was what Hulk Hogan should have done or should have been.
Brother.
You want to be the kids' nation, brother. If you want to be the face of the younger generation, to be the role model, yes, you could talk about taking your vitamins and saying your prayers, but you also shouldn't be telling people that you killed Andre the Giant a week after you slammed him and that you were supposed to be the lead singer, or I'm sorry, the bass player for Metallica.
Yes.
But my good for this week.
Grill because he was taking a dump.
My good for this week goes to Samoa Joe. Not because Samoa Joe is going to be in the main event of Collision in a couple weeks, but because he's playing, I believe the character's name is Sweet Tooth in the Twisted Metal show. I saw the clips. I saw the pictures. My God, he looks so fucking awesome in this show or movie, whatever it is. I want to watch it because him and Anthony What happened?
Does he sell Samoas?
I have not seen it yet, but the fact that him and Anthony Mackie are in this together, I really want to check this out. He looks really cool. He really looks like the character. Like, I'm so impressed. So I have to give Joe my good for this week.
All right.
What do you got for your bad?
I am a lover of LA Knight, but I don't love the fact that he called Lena Vega and a bunch of the locker room a bunch of gamers and nerds. Like, it sounds like he wasn't doing it in character. It sounds like he was doing it to be an asshole. And, and as much as I love his work as the character of LA Knight, like, he could have been joking around, but clearly he didn't make it known to Zelina Vega that this was a joke. Now, he is kind of in feud with LWO. Maybe it's part of the storyline, but it sounds like that's not what it was.
Well, to see it unfold a little bit more and see if this turns into or if it was a shoot or if it was an actual, storyline to it.
Right.
My bad for this week.
Yeah.
Tony Khan made another announcement.
Yeah.
It's like 5, 6, 309 weeks in a row that Tony Khan has made an announcement. Thanks, guys. So this week on Dynamite, I'm going to announce that for Collision in 27 weeks, it's going to be live at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7%, 7%, 7 o'clock Central. Boy, that Bristol Eastern education just really pays dividends over these years.
Yeah. Yeah, when I went by there, I was like going, yep, makes sense.
The exit and the entrance were the same door.
Yeah.
What do you got for your brainless?
I am going with Sergeant Slaughter's daughter. In much it is like they've given Lacey Evans, as many gimmicks as Big Show's done heel and face turns. Like, she was legit in the Marines, and guess what? Like, your dad's been retired for how long? Like, come on. If they decide to make her look in her attire like Sergeant Slaughter 30 years after he's like been a player in the game, like, let it go. It's okay. If it works for her, great. If it doesn't work for her, don't worry. She'll be in a new gimmick in 2 weeks.
Or she's going to get repackaged and come back in 6 months.
Yes. But I'm going with Sarge's daughter. You brainless.
If I could get into a time machine, go back in time to any point when a very young brainless one was taking his vitamins and saying his prayers.
Brother.
And said to him at the age of 40 on this podcast, young brainless one, I hate to burst your bubble, but this week I'm giving my brainless to Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
Not only did Hulk Hogan come out this week and add on to the big pile of talking shit about Bret Hart, saying that Bret Hart wasn't the best because he thought he was the best, but he wasn't that good, and he wasn't good on the microphone. This was after Jake the Snake said that Bret Hart was not a main event caliber guy. I don't take what Jake the Snake says with a grain of salt anymore because his head is so far up Tony Khan's ass that when Jake sneezes, Tony Khan has to blow his nose. But Hulk Hogan is starting to get to the point, Jay, to be in the same conversation with the Vince Russos, the Ric Flairs, the Disco Infernos, the Jake the Snakes, where they need to just shut the fuck up. Because not only that, but I came across a video from years ago where Hulk Hogan basically body shamed Mick Foley and said that he really shouldn't be doing what he should be doing as a professional wrestler, to the point where Mick Foley, who is without question the nicest human being on planet Earth, went out there and said some disparaging remarks about Hulk Hogan in response to him. And he was justified. I just, it's to the point now, Hulk Hogan really is making it hard for me to keep him in my Rushmore.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just like the thing where people are saying that because The Undertaker now talks in his natural voice, and, you know, people are like, oh, you killed it. Now you just killed kayfabe. Are you fucking kidding me? Why? Because The Undertaker doesn't want to be Hulk Hogan, you know, every day of his life like Terry Bollea wants to be? Because he doesn't want to be Ric Flair? Because he doesn't want to be in his 70s talking about stealing kisses and jet flying and all this shit? Let me tell you something, brother. Are you kidding me? Because The Undertaker doesn't want to be The Undertaker? Hulk Hogan needs to stop being Hulk Hogan. Because Hulk Hogan's a fucking asshole. And I can't believe that one of the biggest Hulkamaniacs ever is actually saying this about one of his favorite wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah? So if you like what you've seen, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow, and subscribe to us, we will do the same fact. That has always been our
mantra, and make sure you set up notifications so that when we go live on Facebook, you will be notified that we are live, so you could join in the conversation and talk about our favorite sport we all love to hate, professional wrestling. And make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify, so that if you don't catch the show live, you will get the replay, and you could take us on the road with you and listen to the show.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've done it. We're a hell of a podcast to listen to on the road. It made an entire ride from Connecticut to Virginia very, very bearable.
Yeah.
Again, I had to lower the volume whenever my voice came on, but still.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, Cousin Jay.
Yeah, I think that's it. Nothing more to cover for the Stone Cold Steve Austin 316 episode.
What?
I've hit everything.
Did we do our good, bad, and brainless?
We did.
Did we talk about the new title?
We did.
Did we talk about the Iron Sheik?
We did. Rip.
Did you have a beer?
What?
Did you have another beer?
What?
You gonna have another beer?
What?
I think we touched the way you said it. Well, I don't think so.
Wait.
Well,
Wait.
If it is the inaugural F and Marks Hall of Famer Curtis Axel, what can the Brainless One do for you this Friday evening? Well, you know what, Brainless One? I think this is a good time, if any, to mention to everyone watching the F and Marks podcast that me, Curtis Axel, on this day, June 9th of 2023, for a record-breaking 3,057 days, which is 2,050 days more than Roman Reigns has been champion, I, Curtis Axel, enter number 6, am still 2015 Royal Rumble.
Bow, 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 bow.
Oh, Eric
bow,
Rowan.
bow, bow, bow. Yeah.
Yeah? So, for the Austin 316 episode of the F and Marks podcast,
I'm Jay, and he is
Brainless One.
Yeah.
I'm the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See you, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in. Yeah?
We'll see you next week.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah! See you,
Later,
Cousin Bobby.
Jay.